We are a couple in our early 50s, retired, and recently moved to France. We have one-year visitor visas.
Yes. So we are currently in a city called Montpellier.
Montpellier.
Montpellier. And today we want to talk about our school.
Our language learning journey for sure is tough.
It is 11:35 in the evening. Today is Monday. I went to my very first day of school today. I was actually supposed to start on the 19th along with Jake because we wanted some time to basically get situated in our Airbnb, get familiar with the basic places that we feel we needed to know. We also wanted to make sure that we were basically done with the whole jet lag thing, which for us is a real thing. And so that's why we decided to do the 19th. However, when we arrived here, I just felt this incredible pressure, or I would say maybe insecurity about the fact that I couldn't really speak French. I knew phrases, I knew, small things such as the basics of bonjour and merci and s'il vous plaît and asking for the check and all those things. I have to confess, I wanted to be able to go farther with my speaking as we got closer to our departure. However, with the holidays coming in, and again with just everything, all the preparation and the stress that we had to go through, I just couldn't focus. So I shelved it, and I was very happy that we were going to learn French here. Anyway, I felt that will really force me to really be more intentional and, be more focused. When we got here, like I said, I felt this incredible pressure, this just insecurity that I didn't know how to communicate. And I don't really remember how I felt the first time that we went to France when we arrived in Paris. I don't know if it's because Paris is a more touristy city, and there's a lot more people that come from different parts of the world, so English is quite commonly spoke, at least in the areas where there would be a lot of people visiting, and that's kind of where we were for the most part. So maybe I don't really remember, but I don't recall feeling the way that I felt this time around. So when we went and toured the school the second day after we arrived here, I was just like, if I can start sooner, I want to start sooner. Luckily, they had one spot open for my level, and so therefore I started today. Today is my first day. I am in the level A1 class, which is the very beginner's level, and I'm actually really glad that I am starting in this level. I'm a week behind. They had started this class last week. Had I waited until the 19th, I would have been 2 weeks behind, and I would be starting on the third week, and I just felt like, oh, that would make me be really behind, and I don't know if I'll be able to catch up. And that thought felt so overwhelming to me. So I'm glad that it worked out, that they did have an open spot, that I could start today. And I'm so glad that I did, because there were certain things that we've gone through that it seems so difficult. I was sharing it with Jake, and Jake's just like, that's A1? That's really hard, because he's scheduled to go into A2 level, because, he's been studying for over a year and a half. So he's got some knowledge. But as I'm sharing with him some of the things that I have that I've learned, he's like, oh, that seems really hard for your second week. So I want to show you quickly. So the school that we're going to, it is KLF, which is Keep Learning French. And they basically are partnered with different schools throughout France. And this one here in Montpellier in particular is LSF. Don't ask me what it stands for. I just know that it is LSF. So for today, I received a booklet. Which I really like this because it has pages of just different things that is, that it's almost like a cheat book. There's all kinds of, well, this one doesn't have anything on it. I think we have to write on it, but it has all kinds of information on here that's just really, really cool. Also in the first couple pages, it has information of places to eat, places to, listen to music. It has a schedule of, our hours of when we're supposed to be going to school. So very, very good information in this little booklet. They sent me a link so that I can actually start learning online. And yeah, I started learning the numbers, the months of the year, the days of the week, and seasons. What else did I learn? Oh, the alphabet, which, when I look at French words and it has that little asterisk on the A and the E and the U, they actually have names, and their names are actually longer than the actual letter. However, once I figured out how to read them and how to figure out which direction the accents go, it makes it so much easier. Now I'm finding myself literally spelling words that I see throughout. And I'm also constantly trying to pronounce words. Now, I'm not sure if I'm getting them all right, but I'm practicing my R's, because, the R's have to be pronounced like you're hawking a loogie. That's kind of a gross way of explaining that, but it's also the most simplest way. So I think because I started going to school today, my mindset has really changed. Now, just for today, I received this evaluation. This was taken by the students from last week, and they were given to them today. Now, clearly, we didn't have to do them because we started today. There were quite a handful of us that started today, but we did fill out the second page together, and my assignment is to fill out the bottom today. However, when I got back, when I came home from school, I was just exhausted. My brain absorbed so much information. I was just exhausted. On top of that, we had to name all of these things. So basically what we were wearing, or what clothes people wear, we had to name them. We had to conjugate them. We had to make sure that we had the proper either masculine or feminine on them. So I also had notes on the back because I forgot to bring a notebook. Bad on me. And then we also had this sheet right here where we were matching. So je suis is I am, and so we were matching words that correlate with that statement. One of the ones that I said was je suis. For instance, if I were a vegetarian, I would say je suis végétarien, which is that one on top. But I'm not a vegetarian. And of course, more notes on the back. There were a lot of information that I received today. And this class was a half day. It started at 9 o'clock and it ended at 12 p.m. 3 hours doesn't seem like a lot, but there's so much to absorb. In my class in particular, there were about half of them were English speakers, and there were some that were from like Spain and Italy, and they didn't speak a whole lot of English. So that was my first day of school. Today, afterwards, we went to the mall, Jake and I did, and I picked up a few things to help with my lessons. I picked up a notebook so that I can jot down my notes so I don't have to worry about putting them in the back of my sheets of paper. I got myself a lovely colored rosé folder so that way I could put all my loose papers. I just kind of stick them in this folder, and then I'll keep me organized and keep them protected, and they don't get all crumpled up inside my backpack. And of course, I also have pencils because pencils are just awesome, and pens or Sharpie and a pen because it's important to have. I had to borrow one today, bad student, and I got myself a big stack of post-it notes. My plan for this is literally to write down words and basically put it throughout our Airbnb just to help us remember words and phrases. I think the more we see them, at least for me, the more I see them, the better it will be for me, the more I will recognize them. And once I learn them, I can actually say them properly. And I think I also want to write down not just the phrases, but also how to pronounce them according to what makes sense to me. So my first day at school was great. It was good. It was nerve-wracking. It was scary. Our teacher did speak a little bit of English, just enough to somewhat explain to the new students what was happening. But 90% of the time, she was speaking in French. She was speaking somewhat slow, not super fast. She was very kind and very patient. And I really needed to just get out of that comfort zone. And whenever she says a word or a phrase and she would ask us to repeat it, sometimes I'd find myself just saying it in my mind. But in order for me to really learn it and really get the most out of learning it, I needed to say it out loud. It's so easy to just kind of, stay silent because it was scary. It really was scary for me. And it was just like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't understand. But I just had to be more proactive about really asking questions and really trying to understand. And if I needed to say something in English, I'll say it in English. And it wasn't like I was being scolded because I asked something in English. But, we really try to keep it minimal and really try to speak mostly in French. So, well, that is basically how my first day went. Just wanted to share it with you. Again, I am in level A1, which is the beginner's level. I am so glad that I am in that one. We are not necessarily doing any practice speaking. We're just building our words, what do you call it? My brain is not working right now. My words, my something. Can't remember. And the school also offers a lot of social time that allows people to just speak, and it's a good way to practice what they're learning. So yeah, first day of school turned out pretty good. Tomorrow's another day. I came home, I took a nap. By 9 o'clock, I was wide awake and I was ready to do my homework and just do my stuff. Now it's almost midnight. I need to go to bed because I need to get up early. But aside from that, it was pretty good.
Bonjour. Today is my very first day of French school, week 1 of 12, 10 weeks here in Montpellier. So, bonjour. Je suis parle très peu français. It basically just says I speak very, very little French. Hopefully in a few weeks I'll be cranking it out. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Alrighty. Au revoir. Day 1 of French level A2 complete.
Week 2, form 1.
I must say, l'école très difficile pour moi. The school's very difficult. I'm going to say extremely difficult. Makes me definitely question where I am. But today I am not going to revert to the lower level yet. Going to try to persevere. I am not sure if I'll be able to persevere, but today I will study. I can tell you during the class, it was quite a few hours of not a single word spoken other than French. And I was expecting that. It was, I guess, for the B2 level, I wasn't expecting the teacher to speak so fast. I would have thought maybe she was speaking slower, but it sure was fast for me. I was only understanding maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20% of what she was saying. And she was talking about the concept of putting verbs into past tense, which I understand the concept. There's just a lot to memorize, a lot to go through. Looking forward to one day looking back and smiling upon my past self on the difficulties that we've gone through. I think, I don't know, maybe we'll get there.
We will. It's gonna take time. Doesn't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built overnight.
Well, yeah, they didn't build Rome in a day. We're not going to learn French in a day.
No. No, monsieur.
Okay, well, that's that for now. We'll give you an update later on our language learning.
Bonjour. Au revoir.
Bonjour, everyone. I'm Jake.
And I'm Mary June. So in past videos, we talked about how important it is for us to learn the language. And we 100% believe it is incredibly important. So we signed up for a 12-week course.
I'm going to start out by giving a little background on myself. On my language learning.
For those of you that have never watched our videos before.
For a year and a half, I took some lessons 3 times a week with a tutor. Got up to 400 days on
Duolingo.
Flashcards, quite a bit. And when I took the test for the school that we're going to, which is LSF/KLF here in Montpellier, they put me in A2. So that's where I currently am.
And you felt really confident with that, right? When they placed you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So now my turn for a little background. When we went to France, Paris specifically, in March of 2024, that was the very first time we went to Europe. And I took it upon myself to learn a few phrases because I learned through watching tons of videos how important it is to understand the culture and to understand some, I don't know if I would call them rules, but etiquette, I would say. Etiquette if you're coming to France. One of them is obviously saying bonjour whenever you walk into any sort of place or before you even start speaking with anybody, you start with bonjour. And so I learned a few phrases, like I said, so I felt pretty confident when we were in Paris. I was able to order some, croissants and coffee and things like that. And from there, when we went back to the United States, I basically stopped learning. I just dropped it. Fast forward to last year, which was when we decided to come here and spend at least a year. I wasn't that motivated to learn French. Not that I didn't want to learn French, but I didn't have that motivating drive to learn. So towards the end, maybe like about 3 months or so before we left, my head was finally in that place where I wanted to learn, and I started with flashcards, and I started back on Pimsleur and all of that. However, the closer we got to our departure, we got really, really busy, of course, with the packing and the preparation and all of that. So learning French kind of took a back seat, and I hate to admit it, I didn't really practice.
I'd remove the really.
I didn't really practice. There are people there are people out there that are going to think you're so mean to me. Anyway, however, when we came here, I just had this sense of, I was saying pressure, but really it was a sense of urgency that I needed to learn French. So I actually started going to school a week earlier than we had planned. So I am now, today is Monday, I am now in my 3rd week of school, and you are in your 2nd week.
I'm in my 2nd week. So for those of you that don't know, the type of school we're in is an intensive program. And when I go into class, maybe mine, since I'm a level higher, I think hers is a little different. But when I go into class,
mine is a little different.
English stops. There is no English speaking. In my class, there's 7 people. I am the only American. There's people from other countries. They speak other languages. Although everybody pretty much speaks English, but you don't speak English in the class. It is only French. And I knew that, I expected that, but it's incredibly hard to learn another language. if your vocabulary isn't where it is. So number one recommendation, if you're going to be taking an intensive program, stack your vocabulary. Anki is what I've used. It's a tough app to get started on. There's a lot of YouTube videos on how to get going. Watch those, study your vocabulary. French is, and there's a lot of words that are very similar to ours, but they're different. And learning how to conjugate and structure, put together a sentence and say what you're feeling is très difficile.
So hard. Like I said, I am now in my third week. Like I said, today's Monday, so it's the first day of today's Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, so it's technically the second day of the third week. And last week, I had become so overwhelmed that I decided that I was not going to go to school for one day. We had a lesson on a Tuesday, and it was just so much information. I wasn't absorbing it very well. I wasn't able to really understand it. I mean, in my class, my teacher speaks about 90% in French, and on occasion will speak in English, which I really, really appreciate. However, I still have to go through the process of trying to figure out what is being said, what is being taught. She gives us sheets, about, 2 to 3 sheets per day. And on these sheets, we will have exercises, and everything will be written in French.
Of course.
For the people of you that are French, I know you're probably going to say, duh, of course it's going to be in French. I totally understand. I fully respect that. But I don't know how to read it. I don't know how to read it. I don't know how to understand it. And so I am left to decipher or guess what's being said. Google Translate is my best friend. It is literally next to me. And I'm constantly punching in the words just so that I can understand what is being said. So after all of that, when this specific day that we were being fed with this information, I was just clearly just overwhelmed. And that night I decided I can't go to school tomorrow. I had homework. I didn't even want to do it. It was stressing me out, just the thought of doing it. So I didn't go to school. That entire day, I didn't look at my lessons. I didn't do anything that is in regard to my lesson. However, I did install this, it's basically Netflix. It's kind of like Netflix, but in French. It's called the French Channel, which I got that information from Baguette Bound. Raina talked about that. So I was curious. I downloaded it, and everything on there is pretty much in French. It's like a French version of Netflix. I did do that. I watched a cooking show that was in French, watched it in French subtitles, and then switched it to English. For me, that was good because I was being entertained and I was learning at the same time. Somewhat entertained. Last week was really stressful for me. When I went back to school on Thursday, there was still that anxiety because I basically skipped a whole day and I felt like I was missing out on something, but that break was really, really helpful. And I also decided to take on Jake's tutor that he was using when we were in the United States to just help me understand a little bit more. Now, if you're gonna learn the language, they have a structure. They have it exactly the way they have it. They're not gonna cater to you. They're not gonna cater to any individual because every individual is different. Some people learn faster, some people learn slower. And so, they can't cater to everybody in the way they learn. So if you need help, it's up to you to figure out how you will find that help. And so I took it upon myself to take on his tutor, and that has made everything so much better. It has definitely made me feel a lot less anxious when I go to class. I have a better understanding on some of the things that I am learning and I am doing. And whatever I don't understand in class and then I can ask my tutor in English, and then he can tell me in French. So that has been a tremendous help for me.
Yeah, if you're interested at all, just throw a comment in there and we can get you his information if you want.
Yes, we'd be happy to share his info. So, learning French. In my class, like I said, in A1, we are very much focused on vocabulary. We're learning a lot of things, on a regular basis that you say when you're living in
France. For me, it's still drinking from a fire hose. It's still a lot of information that we're learning. It sometimes can get so discouraging just because I also have other classmates in my class that can speak decent French and they can understand what the teacher is saying, but I don't. Fortunately, the teacher that I have, she's so sweet. She's constantly helping us. I can tell that she has our best interest in mind. So I'm really grateful for that.
And I know we're at the beginning of this learning journey, and just in the beginning, the amount of stress and pressure is pretty high. I can tell you, being in an A2 class when I went in there, and when I read, what an A2 person should be able to do, I thought I was fitting that. I'm still in A2, but I've made the decision that starting next week, I'm going to go down to A1. I think I'm not quite ready for the A2 at this school. When I go in there, there's 7 in my class. Most of the students, they can speak in a full sentence. They can get out what they're feeling. Even some other people in the class, they're able to write out a full paragraph in French. In my mind, I think that's a little past A2, but that's not where they are in this particular class. So I think it's a little bit advanced for me. So I think maybe going down to A1 for me is a good idea. And actually, I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. I'm feeling so much pressure. I'm going to tell you that for the first week, day 1, I was in there, my eyes were like bowling balls, and they're like, what the heck? All I'm hearing is French. I'm sweating. I'm like, what the heck did I do? I'm questioning everything in life. Here I am. I have a fair amount of education. I've gone to college for many, many, many years. And this has been academically the hardest thing that I've ever had to do is learn another language. So we're only a couple weeks in, and trust the process, I guess.
We have to give ourselves grace. We are not.
It's hard to give yourself grace when you don't know what's being said.
I know, I get it, but I think for me, I do feel like I should be picking up so much faster, but I'm not. My learning ability is not the same, like I said, as others. And English is my second language. And I have a hard time with prepositions and all that stuff, grammar things, and let alone a different language. So I have to really focus. I really need to figure out what it is that I am learning, and I need to accommodate myself and my learning style. And I need to give myself grace that I will not get it quickly. And the fact that we're actually going to school. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for that. We go to a boulangerie and I'll order in French, and then they'll ask me a question in French, and I've never heard of it, and I'm like, I don't understand. They're talking really fast, and I freeze. But I have to give myself grace that it will happen. Rome wasn't built in a day. I keep saying that. We keep saying that. But when you're in the thick of it, it's a different story. It's a different story. So
yeah, and I'm looking forward to, after 12 weeks, see where we are and see what the decision is. Where we go from there.
I mean, I'm already making progress. I can already tell that after 2 weeks, there are already progress. It's repetitive. We have to keep repeating the same things over and over again. And I really feel for my teacher. I was telling her, I had a conversation with her, and I was like, you have to have so much patience to have so many different students from all over the world with different learning levels and learning abilities. You really have to be patient. And she said, she really enjoys what she does, but yes, there's a lot of repetitiveness. There's a lot of repeating herself and saying the same things over and over again, which is repetitive, which I just did. So we're doing okay. It's really, really hard. We would recommend 1000%, if you're gonna go to France, learn to speak the language. Not only will your life be richer, when we speak in French, even just to order, I feel a sense of richness. I do like when I can go up into a restaurant and order what I want. I like that I'm starting to look at the menu and I'm starting to pick out, I understand what it's saying. Right.
I don't understand everything. I know the basics of the meats and some vegetables, and I'm kind of learning how it goes together. Yeah. And I don't know it all, but I can tell you, it wasn't that long ago where I looked at the menu and it was completely a foreign language. Yeah. There's some pieces that are starting to come together. Yeah. And it's
It feels good.
It's
it
hard.
feels really good. It's just we have to keep remembering that we are doing something really challenging. We are in our 50s. And now I'm not saying that when you're older, well, but you still can teach an old dog tricks. And okay, we can learn some tricks. It's not too late for us, but it will be a slower process and it will be more frustrating and it can be more challenging. So we have to really just give ourselves grace and still encourage you to learn French. Not only will your life be richer, it's just also so wonderful to be able to learn a different language, and it's just a different type of enrichment in your life when you learn the language where you're at. So
we'll have more updates in the future, and hopefully maybe we'll be able to speak fluently in just a few weeks.
No, let's give us a couple years maybe. But anyway, if you have any comments that you'd like to share with us, we would love for you to put it down below. We love receiving your comments. Thank you so much for everybody that have subscribed. If you have not subscribed, we would love for you to be one of our subscribers. Please make sure you click that subscribe button, push that like button, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Until the next video, au revoir.
Au revoir.